everybody. Welcome to this special session on cyber terrorism. Now, sometime back, one of our leading medical institutes of the country was taken offline due to a ransomware attack on its servers, which was later revealed to be allegedly originated from one of our neighboring countries. Now, while the hospital was successfully able to recover all those data and it came back on its feet, it led to a bigger question that is left to be unanswered. Are we prepared to combat terrorism? That is cyber terrorism, so which has spread to the cyberspace. And to help with that, we have a very special guest with us here today, Mr. Adeoye from Nigeria. Welcome, sir. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon from Nigeria. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough?
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, sir.
Thank you
So,
so much.
before we jump to the conclusion and start our discussion and everything, can you just tell us about yourself? Like, what is it that you do, and so that everybody here, audience, gets to know you at a personal level.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm a network and information security expert with 12 years experience in network architecture, security architecture, threat defense, information governance, OWASP, which is application security management, and also my career spanned across several verticals from banking to oil and gas and telecommunication. So presently, I consult for banks in Nigeria, in West Africa, not only Nigeria, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, and also for telecommunication service providers. Dubai, I've actually checked with installers in Dubai, and so for healthcare services too. I also consult for oil and gas industry for their network governance. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, sir. And I think because of the fact that you're working with so many banks and security firms, that is a good reason for you to know a lot about this topic as a whole, right? So with that, now we can talk about the topic at hand. So in the recent times, there have been many incidents of ransomware attacks happening all over the world. Like entire companies are brought to their knees and servers are taken offline. Even nations sometimes as a whole are affected by this. I remember some time back we had this WannaCry incident happening wherein the entire countries they were facing with a lot of different cases of ransomware happening everywhere. So, like, what is it? What is a ransomware exactly, and how does it
Okay.
work?
Yeah, thank you very much. Ransomware is typically a type of malware. Malware is a malicious software affects the computer systems. So for a ransomware, what ransomware does is that it infects your system and spreads and encrypts your data. So it's mostly for institutions. It's mostly targeted at institutions and organizations. So it encrypts your data. After encrypting your data, you don't have access to those data. So it requires a ransom for you to get a decryption key from the attacker. So most times the ransoms are paid through cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, stable currencies, and other forms of cryptocurrency. So basically, it's from ransom. So just the same way people are being kidnapped, your data is being kidnapped by being encrypted. So you don't have access to your data, you don't have access to your files, you don't have access to everything on your server and storage. So the only way you can decrypt it is through the attacker. So basically, that's what ransomware does.
So,
And
like,
most
is
times,
it
to also add to it, sorry about that. To also add to it, most times ransomware vectors mostly phishing emails, phishing attack, and also remote desktop softwares. So when an organization allows remote desktop, most times the attackers hijack it through, because remote desktop passes through the internet. It's internet facing, so the attackers look at that vulnerability and hijack the remote session and install ransomware on your.
So talking about systems, like, is it specific to some kind of systems? Like, does it happen only on Windows, or does it only happen on Linux? Is that so, or is it universal in nature?
So yeah, so basically it happens mostly on Windows, but it's not restricted. There has been known attacks on Linux systems, which is rare, though, but it's most on Windows systems. And because Windows is widespread, and the knowledge of how with the Windows operating systems, the Windows is widespread. It's easy to understand. So most times the ransomware attacks mostly Windows, and most organizations use Windows software on their infrastructure for inputs. So it's easy for them to hijack Windows sessions and operating systems.
So, since you already in the security field, hasn't there been any incident where your systems or the system that you're working with, or your customers or clients, somewhere that you have faced this ransomware attacks, and what was it like?
Okay, so for me, I've had several, but the highlight, the one that I was actively involved in, is the WannaCry in 2017. So the first WannaCry. So prior to the attack in May, Microsoft released a patch on for Microsoft servers, which mitigated against WannaCry. But apparently, organizations take it for granted. So when you miss your patch, when you miss patches are updates on your or on your servers. So when you miss that, you are susceptible to attack. So one of the companies I was consulting for had a WannaCry attack. The infrastructure was grounded. So the first thing we did was to be sure they had backup. Unfortunately, they didn't have a backup that was updated. So they were at the risk of losing their data. So what I instructed them to do was never to shut down their systems, because when you shut down during a ransomware attack, you are at the high risk of losing your data, because at that time your data is encrypted. So when you shut down, it will corrupt the data. So I made sure that it had an uptime all through the attack, and good enough. Microsoft support was readily available. We run the patch on the servers, and we're able to recover 95% of the data. So that was it.
So if you're infected with ransomware, and you do not shut it off, so you can prevent it actually from happening. Is that so?
Yes. So when you, I didn't get that. Come again, please.
Like, if you are being infected with ransomware, and if you do not shut down your system, so you can actually retrieve your data. And if you shut it off, then that is when you lose it.
Exactly. You could corrupt your data and not be able to retrieve it again.
Okay, so pertaining to the example that you've given, as you said that having a backup of all the information, the database which you have is a very key important issue. Along with that, what other certain factors are to be implemented with regards to preventing a ransomware attack?
Okay, so thank you. The most important actually is running patches on your infrastructure. So you need to make sure that you update your softwares, both your network security devices and your servers. You need to run patches that are updated, because prior to these attacks, mitigate and prevent these attacks. So you need to run patches. Then also, number two is backup. Do backups as much as you can, as often as you can. And also, when you backup, don't put your backup on the same network. In fact, there are organizations that do backup. So you have a live backup that can fall onto, and you have a cold storage backup. So the cold storage backup doesn't have access to the internet. It's residual. It's just kept somewhere in case there is an attack on the infrastructure. Then also remote desktop. The kind of remote desktop you need on your infrastructure needs to be evaluated. It needs to be evaluated to be sure there are no vulnerabilities. So most remote desktop softwares have lots of vulnerability and be hijacked by us. So make sure you have standard software, enterprise software on your infrastructure. Then also critically, knowledge. Your staffs needs to know when not to click on wrong emails, because most times when you have phishing attack, a phishing attack comes through emails. So when you let your staffs, people that work with you, understand that okay, there are lots of security risk with emails. Don't just click on any link. If you see a suspicious email, call on the IT security team and flag it. So knowledge is very important for your team. You need to trainings and knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding following up on that, because phishing is used mostly for ransomware attacks, could we say that that is why it is more effective? Because phishing
Yes,
attack,
yes.
the emails and all, individuals really do not know which emails are to be flagged down. We cannot exactly know what's in an email. So can we say because of that, it is more effective, those attacks?
Yes, thank you. Phishing is the most effective and the easiest form of attack, because imagine an organization that has over 1,000 staffs. Uh, Definitely, not all of them will be knowledgeable about security. So attackers use that loophole to keep sending emails, to keep sending those phishing emails, and one way or the other, someone in the organization will fall for that trap. So it's very common, it's very easy. And so the IT security team has a task on their hand to make sure that everybody is updated and up to the task of protecting themselves.
Yes, sir. So, talking about this ransomware, actually, since like in the recent times, there have been really, the numbers have gone up of cyber terrorism, this cyber ransomware cases. So, can they be
Mm.
called as cyber terrorism, or are they different? Like, how do you define cyber terrorism, and what all will be included in cyber terrorism then?
All right. So for cyber terrorism, uh, I don't want to define cyber terrorism. Let me say, for every war, before physical combat, there is always a cyber combat. So countries in the modern age we are in, countries don't just send bombs and missiles to each other. They get data. So data is a oil of the future. So is even the present oil. So is the gold of the present age. So data access by your enemy is very key. So cyber terrorism is what precludes war, is war on the internet, a war of data. So people from organizations, countries, they want to gain access to your data, because your data is who you are. So once they get access to your data, they can know your weaknesses, your strengths, your strategic locations, your agents all over the world, how they can target your agents. So cyber terrorism is countries or activists, not activists, like they call them activists. So what they do is they just want to attack your organizations, because they have a different political view from what you have. So cyber terrorism goes across the spectrum, from organizations, from So we know as it is right now that there are certain countries that have been blacklisted to have lots of cyber terrorists across the globe. They've attacked almost every other country because they want data for themselves. So terrorism is the war of data. In my own language, a war of data.
Yes, sir. And following on that, like nations, they are in the form of in the process of digitizing, where every data
Mm.
that they collect about healthcare, about their political records, everything now is being stored in a digital format. Then there are organizations, there are companies who are having this demat, we call it demat here. So dematerialization of documents, everything is being stored digitally. So does that attract, that becomes a hotspot for these attacks? So,
Yeah.
are we in some ways attracting all these attacks towards us?
Yes. Basically, the advent of cloud. Cloud is just basically uh, so we have private clouds, we have public cloud, and we have hybrid cloud. So public cloud is what people have access to easily, but big organizations have private cloud. So basically, cloud is very open right now. The most open is public cloud. So what organizations do now is, apart from the security provided by the uh, cloud service provider, they go further to make cloud to provide their own security on their own perimeter. Also, like in Nigeria, I don't know how it is in India. Like in Nigeria, there is a like a GDPR law that is in Europe. We have our own internal law in Nigeria that for military, you don't store data in the cloud. They don't store data in the cloud. So they keep data, they warehouse data within the country, or they keep a private cloud. It's mandated because of cyber terrorism. When you house your data in the public cloud, it's low hanging fruit for attackers. So with cloud technology, we need to be careful. Cloud technology, cloud solutions, cloud storage gives attackers easy pick, so we need to be careful with cloud. So cloud is good for easy access, for mobility, but it comes with its own pains, with its cyber terrorism.
Yeah, so following up on that, if we are using cloud for database or backups and also, what are the other methods we can use to safeguard those?
Okay, so if we're using cloud, so different OEMs have different solutions. I can talk about Cisco, I can talk about Fortinet. So what they do is they integrate their own security, in-house security with the cloud security using the API. So with API, you can integrate you have your infrastructure to the cloud security. So we have an enhanced cloud security, and also whatever you have in the cloud as data should be backed up in-house. You should have a backup of whatever you have as cloud in-house. Um, that's what I think can mitigate attacks on cloud infrastructure. Thank you.
Sir, these days, what we actually noticing and seeing the trend is that people are getting more aware about the dark web. Now, this is something that was not known to many people that it even existed. But then there were, comes news articles about it, that so and so movie was leaked on the dark web, and so people start becoming aware of it. Now, dark web is something that maybe some people consider cool or something, but then it also somehow becomes a medium by which you can you can share your views and your tools, basically those cyber tools, those attack tools, where you could share your ransomware, viruses, you could deliver packages, payloads, and everything. So, uh,
Yeah.
can we somehow monitor the dark web? Like, should we do something about it?
Okay. So dark web, even in Nigeria, as we people sharing sensitive data via the dark web. So dark web, as much as it's sweet and and fanciful. There are so many threats to society. People buy drugs, they child trafficking, all sorts of that dark web. So dark web monitoring, different hands, even I squad, they have governance that goes with monitoring dark web manufacturers. So there are applications that are known to have access to dark web, like Onion Webs, and so many others. You can actually develop softwares, machine learning capabilities that would detect activities, dark web activities. And also, when we talk about dark web, I like to talk about zero-day attacks too. So, zero-day attack are attacks that they are not known. Nobody has seen them. Nobody knows what kind of form they are. They are new attacks. So, on the dark web, there are so many zero-day attacks that are sent from the dark web to institutions, to organizations, to even government agencies. So the best thing is in organizations, there's what we call honeypot. So when you create an honeypot, an honeypot is an easy access. It's separated from your infrastructure, but it gives easy access for attackers to gain. So they think is your infrastructure, but it's not your infrastructure, but you are giving them that access to be able to understand what kind of attack they are sending. So when you give them the honeypot, from what you see in the honeypot, you can send it to a sandbox. The sandbox is like a software environment where you can analyze attacks, you can analyze new attacks. So by the time you do that, you'll be able to understand what goes on and how to block access to the dark web from inside the organizations. And also training matters. In your organization, you need to make your staff understand that a threat to the organization is a threat to you. If your organization goes down, your means of livelihood goes down. So everybody should watch their back. Everybody should always check their shoulders. Everybody should be careful. Before you can get free applications, but those applications actually ruin the organization and ruin you in also. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so following up on
So,
that, when we're talking about evolving technology, because the technology is evolving, there are multiple techniques, new techniques, which are being generated in the way a virus can be affected to the system, which can cause ransomware, etc. So to combat that, what exactly can we do? Means along with, as you suggested, honeypot and sandbox, what are the other methods that we can use to solve these new techniques which are being generated?
All right. So for new techniques, also we need to consider the effect of human interference. So as it is right now, the world currently, according to I squared, security jobs. So it's an acute shortage. So we need training. People need to be trained. We need skillful hands. We need people that can understand these technologies. There are technologies, but there are not enough people to handle the technology. When we have enough trained expert, enough trained specialists, will be able to match the attackers on one. So I believe training matters. The technologies are there. We have machine learning, we have artificial intelligence that come back, but if there are not enough people to handle them, then it becomes useless. So I believe training and awareness matters a lot.
sir, you've been mentioning machine learning and AI quite a lot. So, like, what exactly is machine learning? Can machines actually learn because they're not human, right?
Yeah,
How does that
so
work?
we believed some decades ago, we believed that a computer is garbage in, garbage out. But things are changing right now. So there are models that you create. So when you create models, uh, those models evolve with data. So as you feed the data into the model, they evolve. So your data that you're feeding are actually being learned by the machine. So that's basically what is called machine learning. So it's just developing models. So there are several models that you can develop. So most times you need programming language such as Python. For network, you need Ansible, you need SQL to be able to build this model. So when you build model, or you build a model, the model adapts with data. So as data comes in, it adapts. So once it can understand the models you built and the data as you get, it gives you the results. It gives so it adapts. It adapts to the data. Thank you.
So
And also for artificial intelligence, machine learning works with artificial intelligence. So right now, with a shortage of IT security personnel, artificial intelligence breached the gap, but it's not enough to breach the gap because the hackers are smart. They're very smart. They always come up with new technology, new attacks, new viruses, new malwares, zero-day attacks. Thank you.
I did read a paper about this where this machine learning model. So what adversaries do is they create these adversarial attacks. They create their machine learning algorithms on their own, which attack our machine learning algorithms. So it is kind of
Yes.
like that snake biting its own tail.
Sir, so could you explain in a situation where AI could be used, for example, as the host said that machine learning algorithms are attacking other algorithms. So could you explain a real life example where such AI is being implemented?
Okay, so I'll move on to the first one is Cisco Talos. For Cisco Talos, what Cisco Talos does is that it aggregates all the data. So it's like a global reservoir of information, or is a global intelligence for Cisco. So it aggregates data. You can opt for Cisco Talos in your organization. So every data, every new model of attacks are sent to Cisco Talos. So Cisco Talos analyzes them and gives you patches. So Cisco Talos is an example of an AI model. And also we have Fortinet Security Fabric. So with Fortinet Security Fabric, Fortinet has AI that that monitors your fabric. So it gives you recommendations on what you do. So if you have Fortinet solutions in environment and you have a complete Fortinet fabric, it monitors excuse me. So it monitors your infrastructure. If there is something new, if there is something suspicious, it tells you. It sometimes quarantines it. When it quarantines it, it tells you that okay, yes, this is a new model of attack. So those are examples. There are others too, but basically, so many OEMs, so many of the security outfits are now adopting AI to understand these attack vectors, these attacks too.
Sir,
Right.
coming back to where we started from, there was a question that we had that if I don't know if you're aware of this, but in India back here, what happened was we had a ransomware attack on one of our leading hospitals of our country, and it was down for over a week. Like it was taken offline, and there was a lot of chaos actually because the doctors and every staff had to shift from this digital format onto the physical format. So their data was somewhere lost, and there was delays because obviously it is not as fast and efficient as the machine. So, like, what went wrong? Like, what could they have done to avoid it? How could they have, recovered it quicker? Like, any tips for that?
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, from my knowledge of the attack, my basic research of the attack, I noticed that both the data and the backup data were attacked. So, they basically almost lost everything, and we resorted to manual processes. So it's one of the recommendations I gave initially that apart from online backups, you should have a cold storage backup that is not on your network. So when you have attacks as such, it will not take you such a long period of time to come back, to come back online. So that's one of the recommendations. Two, also intensive knowledge sharing. They need the people that operate the network, the people that use computers that go online they need to understand how these things works. You don't just click any link that comes to your email. You don't just go to sites that are prohibited by the organization. And also patches. So from my suspicion, for them to be offline for a week, it demonstrated that the patches they've not run for some time on their servers. So because if you run patches that are updated, even if you get attacked, you don't go offline for such a long period of time. So because if you have an updated patch, you go offline, the OEM will sit with you and make sure you come back online as soon as possible. So apparently, I am not saying it as a fact, but I'm saying as a suspicion and as my experience permits me that they must have missed lots of patches on their infrastructure. So, and by the time they miss those patches, they need to get updated on those patches before they can even get support from the OEM. So, because the OEM will only work on the most recent and most updated patches. That's when they can come. So for them to be offline for a week, I'm sure the IT infrastructure team, the application team, they're running around to make sure that they get updated on softwares, on their applications before the OEM can come in and support them. So because I mean, most times when you have ransomware attack, you go offline through even for 4 days. After 4 days, after no 3 days, the fourth day, so many people came back online because Microsoft already sent patches to people that this is what you should do. If you haven't done this, do it now. You shouldn't be attacked. And if you're attacked, you should recover your files back. So for them to be offline for a long time, I'll think the security team didn't do a good job. Both the IT security, the application security team, and the network security team, they didn't good job. So I'll say that's where the uh, 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 investigations should start. Thank you.
So, can we not brute force the password for a ransomware attack? Like, can you not try to hit every passcode there is for that attack?
No, I didn't get that. Okay, so for you to decrypt the file.
Yeah, decrypting the ransomware attack. Can you not use a
So
brute force method?
so for you to do that might take you years. Because sometimes the attacker has an dump, they use 256 SHA encryption. So for you to do that, you just waste your time. So that's why those are the risks with ransomware. You don't know the kind of encryption they do. If they do encryption that will take you hundreds of years for you to decrypt, the best thing is just to make sure that your backup is solid. If your backup is not solid, I'm sorry, you might have to either pay a ransom or you forget about your data.
So what if we encrypt our files ourselves and keep it that way? So do we actually need backup also then, if our files are already encrypted, or can they be double encrypted?
Well, you can double encrypt. So I didn't get that.
Like if I'm using my system and if I keep all my files, they're already encrypted, right? So they open with my passcode only. So can a ransomware attack affect my system?
Yes, of course. Of course. That 0 days attacks that will encrypt what's been encrypted. You decrypt it and you discover that there is another layer of encryption.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So the best thing is just to do appropriate backup. Do as much backup as you get it updated.
Yes, sir. You mentioned there was, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, so along with all the remedial measures that you suggested, that we should have the backup, the IT infrastructure team, and all should have some basic level of basic steps that they should be doing. They should be doing while making a system. So along with that, are there any organizations like governmental organizations or cert organizations giving out some basic instructions that these are all the things that should be done when you're setting up a system?
Uh, yeah. So what you're saying is that organizations should give instructions to people what to do, right? Yeah. So there is a company I did a consulting for. So basically, I thought I was supposed to do a penetration test and all those things. But what they wanted me to do was just to give them basic steps on what to do before attack, during attack, and post attack. So I was so surprised and I loved it. We came up and almost every member of the staff understood it. So they know what to do before an attack happens. During the attack, they know what to do, and after the attack, they know what is expected of them. So it's very important that organizations, government agencies, let every member of the staff know what to do during attacks.
So, which organizations would be most susceptible to these attacks? Like you are working in the banking sector, you're working in the banking security. So obviously that becomes that puts a target on your back. But then, what other industries should be aware of this and try to be more careful?
Okay, so right now, right after the WannaCry attack in 2017, we started seeing increasing ransomware attacks. In 2021, ransomware grew by 50%. In 2022, we don't know yet, but it's been crazy. In the United States, the grid system, electrical grid is in the United States have been attacked. Ransomware in Texas, it happened. Texas paid ransom in Bitcoin, and right now, even in November, there was an attack on a U.S. One of the state, a U.S. grid electrical grid system. So, as it is right now, initially, it was ransomware was targeted at government agencies and banks and banking financial institutions. But right now, ransomware is growing rapidly. It's not restricted to banking alone. It's going to medical now. So we can see an hospital being attacked in India. We are seeing electric grid system being attacked in the US, rail systems in Europe that are being grounded because of ransomware. So the ransomware attack is growing enormously. So one thing I'll say is causing this because it is easy to do a ransomware, but it is also easy to be prepared for it if you do the right things. So by the time people get to understand how these things works, the ransomware attack will go down because people will not pay ransom. So last month in November, a US grid system went down because of ransomware, but they were able to bring it back up because the codes they were using, they backed it up and they switched to the backup. So with time it will go down, but it's easy to execute. That is basically the reason why it's growing. So it's not going to just banks alone. That even in Nigeria, the oil and gas company, an oil and gas company was attacked. That was a ransomware attack, oil and gas company, and for you to know that it's not just the banking industry. Thank you.
So you mentioned that there is some shortage of cyber stuff in the current industry. So talking about that, like is somebody starting out, right? If they're starting out in this field, so what all can they do? Where should they start? And if they aspire to be at, let's say, at your level, so how much blood and sweat will they have to put in to be able to get there?
Yeah, so there are two ways you can become a network security expert or an security expert. So for information security, which is also they are all under the cybersecurity umbrella. But for information security, I mean, you should start. You can go to ISC squared. ISC squared is a global body that does CISSP. A member. So you can start with ISC squared. With ISC squared, they have what they call certified certified cybersecurity. So it's a entry level course, and also apart from that, you go to organize courses from FireShark, basically understand network because it's give an edge if you understand network. You can understand the core, at least the basic principles behind networking, how networks work, how computers interconnect, cores that govern networking. So if you understand that, you can take another step and go into cybersecurity. By the time you start cybersecurity, you will understand how everything interconnects from network side to information side to the security governance side. So the most important thing, even for an expert, the most important thing is for you to understand the basics, understand the basics and the fundamentals. So, and you can't do this without training. You need to go out there and give time. Take patience, be patient, but keep grinding. You get it. Thank you.
So in general, because now so many different types of attacks are also being held, like ransomware, phishing, spoofing, and also an individual who's not at that level of understanding what happens in a computer. Like we normal people just use it for their work, but they don't know what is going on behind the scenes, like the attacks. Then how do we help people? How the network security people help in removing all the attacks, and also what an individual or a layman person should know basically of what if some ransomware or any virus has been attacked on a system. So what a basic person should know to combat those.
I didn't get that. So, what for the network security team? What are the basic questions?
No, what a basic person like a normal individual should know if a
Okay, yes.
system
So,
has been
so,
hacked.
so, so basically, for individuals that are not uh, security, that are not security literate, you should know that you don't click on any sites that you don't understand. The world is gone. The world is gone so complex right now that you don't want to click on anything you don't understand. So when you get mails, be sure that the mail is from registered organization. So those are the basic things. Also, when you have a site, you're giving a website, be sure that this website is secured. So there's what they call HTTP or HTTPS. Be sure it's an HTTPS website before you. Then also, when you go to public places, don't just connect your system or or your phone to any any power port. So they can hijack your old data. Also, when you use when you go to airports or subways, if you want to check your account or you want to log on to your banking, your financial applications, don't use public wireless. So these are some of the examples because there are some wireless that they copy the public wireless, but all they do is they are hijacking your session and they can hack you through that means. So as a network information security, these are some of the things you need to let people know that don't be careless with that. Don't be careless with your phone. Don't be careless with connectivity. When you are at home and you have a wireless, don't leave it open. make it secure, password it. When you're with your system, don't let it be open, password it. When you want to leave your seat, lock it, lock your screen. All security, because sometimes with security, physical security, you gain access to your network. So if you make sure your physical security is intact, your sometimes your network will be intact. So I like to give an example of that. Some years back in Iran. So we know Iran and US have issues, right? So in Iran, the CIA needed to shut down their nuclear grid. But in Iran, their nuclear grid, they don't have physical access. Nobody is allowed to enter. It's only people that work inside and the cleaners. But the CIA got access to one of the cleaners. I think they gave him $1 million and they gave him a USB, just a USB, and they told him to just place it on the table, on any table in the system. So the USB was placed on the table. The USB was emitting a wireless signal, an RFID too, and it was through that USB they shut down the nuclear grid in Iran. So those are drawbacks of physical security, physical access. So
So was
those
that the
are
Stuxnet virus?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So physical security also matters. The people, you need to know the profile of the people that work in your organization. You need to be able to do security background checks to know what they do. Sometimes people say it might be legal, but if you do it through a legal means, the country, every country in the world gives employers permission to do a background check. So if you do a background check and you find something wrong, then you should stop. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think we can now, we have had a good idea about what ransomware is and what we can do for that. So I think with that, we can sort of wind up this session. Sir, I,
Thank
I would like to personally thank you for taking the time and, enlightening us with all of this information and about all of this knowledge about cyber terrorism, about cyber security, about those certifications as well, about ransomwares, about these attacks. There's so much to take from this. So myself, Priya Rana, and my co-host, Anushka Bhatt, I think, and within the entire family of FireShark. So thank you for taking this time. It's been an honor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. The honor is mine. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Thanks.